Okay, well, welcome everyone. We just want to get the presentation going. We welcome you today, February 1st. Can you believe it? Time goes fast. And we have a few items to cover today. So just as we mentioned before, make sure that you go to www.menti.com and enter the code 14865858. So today we're going to be discussing a few items. Our theme is from planning to action. As many of you are aware and have been participating to the last 2.5 years of planning and working with us to create a transformation plan. We are pretty much over that stage and now looking into the new alternate options that we have, which is the action plan. So if we want to go to the next slide. So the meeting, the purpose today, we'll get to number one, celebrate finishing the transformation plan. As I was mentioning, it's been 2.5 years of a lot of work, not only with the city of Omaha, the Omaha Housing Authority, Canopy South, but also with the support of many like you are today here in this meeting, including some of the stakeholders and the organizations that already do great work supporting the community. But also the residents and everybody that has participated through the process. So we are now on this stage of celebration. The second part, we'll want to talk about the kickoff implementation of the transformation plan. As we mentioned, there's a lot of things that we're taking into account when we're creating the transformation plan. And now we have identified a few items that are ready to take off. Then we'll be talking about the $50 million implementation grant. And that is a great number, $50 million that we have the opportunity to apply and hopefully bring those monies to Omaha, more specifically to have a big impact in Southside Terrace and the Indian Hill neighborhood. And then lastly, we'll discuss the all-das potential impact and what all those implies. So next slide, please. Before we get started, we wanted to introduce the team and the people that are behind the whole effort, not only to the transformation plan, but to the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant, but also what we were doing before the Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant. So with the city of Omaha, we have Bill, Kelly, Mariana, Leisha, Alisa. Those are the folks working with us from city planning. We have the team from Omaha Housing Authority, Johnny, Lauren, Haji, Connie, and Maggie. We also have our friends from Brinshore, which are the master developers, Todd, Whitney, Anna. And then from Canopy South, we have Crystal, Juan, and myself, Cesar. I am going to give now the opportunity to Mariana to talk a little bit about some of the activities and some of the things that we'll be doing with the Mentimeter.
Great, thanks, Cesar. So tonight we have a number of ways that we will be able to interact with you in this virtual meeting. One of them is this great product we have called Mentimeter. We've used it before. You might have used it before. But basically, as Cesar mentioned at the beginning, you'll be able to answer questions through Mentimeter throughout this presentation using the Q&A button. So as as Cesar had mentioned, if you went to menti.com, put in that code, the slideshow presentation will be moving along as we're going through here on the Zoom. At any point, you can tap on open Q&A and enter a question through there. We'll get to it hopefully before the end of the session. You can also leave a comment through the send a comment option as we're going through the session. And then several times throughout this presentation, we'll be asking you a question about your preferences or your relationship to the area. We really would love to get your feedback. It's really important that all of you, the public and community, will be able to, let us know what you think. We want to hear how you're feeling about all these things. If you are, this presentation is going to be recorded and posted online. So if you're watching not during this live presentation, you will be able to go to Mentimeter and use all of this same information to view and participate in the same survey polling questions through February 15th. Going to menti.com, using that code 14865858. Also through Menti, you'll see you have a bunch of buttons down there at the bottom of your screen, a heart, a question mark, thumbs up, thumbs down. So those are other ways that you can let us know how you're feeling about what you're seeing on the screen. We can go to the next slide. So another way to participate during this presentation, if you're watching through Facebook Live. At any point, we've got someone who's monitoring the comments. If you would like to write a comment on the Facebook Live, we'll do our best to get that answered, again, before the meeting's over. We'll take most of the questions by the end of this meeting, but feel free to put your comments in through there. And then lastly, the Zoom chat. So if you move your mouse around, your little toolbar should come up. There should be an option that says chat. Feel free to put any questions, thoughts, comments in that chat. Send it to the whole group, and we'll try and be able to access your questions that way. I'm also seeing there's a lot of folks participating through an iPhone. So at the end of this presentation as well, we'll give an opportunity for folks to maybe just unmute themselves if they have a direct question to ask, because we don't want to miss any of those. Next slide. So again, if you're watching this presentation after the live airing or have any bigger, larger questions that we didn't get to today or you weren't able to ask, we want to make sure we're accessible after the presentation. So contacting Lauren at the Omaha Housing Authority, her email is included here on the slide. I'll say it out loud if you're listening. So lleitner@ohauthority.org. And her phone number is 402-444-6900, and her extension is 2268. So she'll be accessible. And I believe our next slide is to do a warm up. So again, to access our Mentimeter and make sure that we all know how to, we're using the technology that we have, using either another window, if you're watching on a computer screen, opening up another browser and going to menti.com, or if you're watching on your phone, opening up another browser, going to menti.com, entering the code 14865858, or you can just take a picture of our QR code here on the screen. And we will do a warm up. Our first question is going to be, how did you hear about this meeting? So once you have your screen ready, you should be able, and you can select multiple options here, by the way. So feel free to select all that apply. We used a lot of different advertising techniques. Awesome. So again, it's meant, I know there's almost 30 people watching, so it would be really incredible if everyone who's not on the CNP steering committee team could participate with us. So we'll wait until a couple more folks are able to get their votes in. If you're not able to access Menti and you want to just put it in the chat or in the Facebook, that would be great too. This is really helpful information for us. Yep, perfect. That's great. Thank you, Leisha. This is just really helpful information for us to know the most effective ways to meet folks out, like to reach folks in the community. Thanks, Gary. Gary put social media in the chat. We'll maybe give it about 10 more seconds. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, thanks everyone for your participation. Oh, last minute, that's great. Okay, I think we can move on to the next slide. And I'll toss it back over to Cesar. Thanks.
Thank you, Mariana. Okay, so let's go jump to today's agenda. Once again, celebrate the near completion of the transformation plan. Then jump into the kickoff implementation of the transformation plan, what is underway, what the possible plan to implement the transformation plan, and the process to apply to the $50 million grant. I think that is very exciting. And once again, we cannot make this happen with all your help and the participation of all of you. And more important, it is for the community as a whole, no for Canopy South, no for the city of Omaha, no for Omaha Housing Authority, it's for the community. So now we're just gonna have some questions here that we wanna have you answer using the Mentimeter, just as Mariana showed us. We have 3 questions. Which best describes you? 1, I live at Southside Terrace. 2, I live in the neighborhood. And 3, I don't live here, but I care about the area. I see we have 10 participants at this moment. Maybe if we give you a couple more minutes. And we have in the chat, Gary say that he cares about the area. And then Lauren has a couple other ones that are in the chat on Facebook. One that says that don't live here, but cares about the area. So I think I make a total of 12 votes. All right, let's jump into the next question. Which is your primary preferred language? Is it English, Espanol, Arabic, Maimai, Chisigua? We have Gary in the chat, English. Roman said Chisigua. And then Lauren has one in the chat that says English. Okay, now we go from plan to action. I want to have Kelly Dorsey Johnson Darcy, Kelly, sorry, I always forget the right order of that, but she's with the planning department and she will be explaining the next things here as far as the transformation plan and the implementation grant. Kelly?
Thank you, Cesar. Thank you. So first, we're going to start off with the transformation plan. So as Cesar says, we've been working on this for over 2 years. We actually kicked it off. Our first celebration was October 2019. And we want to take this first opportunity to thank you. Because of you and your engagement and feedback, HUD has accepted our draft transformation plan. So we submitted it right before Thanksgiving. And then we heard back from them about a month later, and we're working on finalizing that right now. So Alicia, if you want to go to the next slide. While they accepted the draft transformation plan, they also offered some suggestions that we are incorporating into our final. So a couple of their concerns: how will case management build trust with residents? So their concern here lies in that case management is with the Omaha Housing Authority, who is also their landlord. So they just want us to be very thoughtful in how we can manage that difficult relationship. They want us to focus on how to overcome the issues identified by residents and make it more user-friendly. It's a very long document, and we've taken that recommendation and actually have made a little brochure that captures in about 4 pages instead of about 200. So we are incorporating their suggestions, edits, final recommendations from the community, and are turning it in. It is due back to HUD on February 16th. So this is yet one of those other things we're busy working on right now. So here is a little graphic to show the plan, where we've been, right? So 2019 to 2022, we really focused on creating a transformation plan with you, the community. We are right now in the middle of this graphic because we are shifting from planning to implementation. So our implementation begins now and goes to at least 2028 and beyond. Let's see. And then I'm going to keep going on this one, it looks like. So action that is currently underway. So case management, like we've mentioned, is currently available for all Southside Terrace residents. These are the 3 case managers, Haji, Connie, and Maggie, as we've talked about earlier. So that is already underway as for Southside Terrace residents. Additionally, neighborhood improvements have been conceptually approved for us to spend some of our grant funding on. One of them is some beautifying outside of Bafoma, which is pictured here. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the top picture, the pink building. What we've proposed here is replacing the sidewalks, planting some street trees, installing pedestrian lighting, and a mural on the south side of the building where you see that dumpster now, which we'll have to move. So we are working on this, really excited about the opportunity to really reclaim this space for pedestrians and for residents of the neighborhood. Our next improvement that we've already conceptually been approved for by HUD and have funding to do is make improvements outside this building, just on the north side of Upland Park. So currently it's surrounded by a fence with some barbed wire, and hopefully you've seen some activity here this past fall. And that activity was some tuck pointing. And so that is complete, just trying to kind of shore up and improve the exterior of the building, which will continue. So there'll be some other exterior improvements and activation of that building. So currently Omaha Housing Authority owns the building, and then it will, once those improvements are made on the exterior, it will go transferred to Canopy South, who will then activate the inside of the building, which we're working on and haven't identified any final users of that as we just work towards the improvements right now. All right, I want to go to the next slide here. So as we have been busy working away on all of this, HUD announced that an application is now available for implementation grants. So this is the grant that we referenced, throughout the planning process that would really help spur and accelerate the transformation plan that we've been creating. So much to our surprise, it was due pretty quickly. So if you remember, the transformation plan is due February 16th. This grant application is actually due February 15th. So we have a very quick turnaround time on a very complicated grant application. So we want to go through what that means and what that looks like. So with this implementation grant, they are now available, and it's $50 million. The City of Omaha, Omaha Housing Authority, Canopy South, and Bridgeshore Development are working on a plan to apply for the full $50 million. The grants are very competitive, and funding would accelerate the implementation of the transformation plan. The focus remains on people, housing, and neighborhood. So this is that next step from planning that we had that grant. Now we're focusing on implementing that plan. For reference, we have a $25 million grant for the Spencer Homes North 30th Street. So $25 million is the grant we received for implementation up north. We would be applying for $50 million. It's a very competitive grant, and there's a lot of criteria we would have to meet in order to apply for it, which we're working on now. If we are able to apply for and get awarded the grant, the same number of public housing units demolished will be rebuilt. So if you recall from all of our planning, we talked about mixed income housing. So public housing replacement units, affordable units, and market rate units. So really, while we're replacing every single public housing unit, we'll also be constructing more. So in total, looking about 750 to 1,200 units. These units will be in a variety of different housing types, duplexes, townhomes, apartments, etc. So currently Southside Terrace is all townhomes, and there would be a variety in a rebuilt Southside Terrace and other locations in the neighborhood, because different housing types would accommodate different families. Again, if we're able to apply for and get awarded the grant, all lease compliant Southside Terrace residents will indicate their housing preferences and have the first right to move into a new assisted unit. Moving assistance will be provided, both counseling and financial. Up to $7.5 million is reserved for people. So, and this is really based on the findings from the needs assessment that Southside Terrace residents have been doing over the past couple of weeks. And up to $7.5 million is reserved for up to 5 neighborhood improvement projects, which we will have you vote on later in the presentation. Here's the implementation timeline. So grants or applications are due February 15th. HUD would anticipate site visits in May or June. So this is our first indication as to if we're still in the running or not. The anticipated grant start date is September. And then in January, we're looking at starting housing construction. Programming and services really targeted to that needs assessment findings for Southside Terrace residents would begin in September 2023, and neighborhood improvements would begin in October 2023. Go to the next slide, please. Okay. So we're curious, what are you most interested in discussing and learning more about? We will cover all the topics lightly in this presentation, but just curious what we might need to dive into a little bit deeper. So again, if you'll go to menti.com and respond with what you're interested in discussing on that site. All right, so far we only have 5, there we go, 6 responded. So far, relocation and moving, see a comment for services and programs. Give it a couple more seconds for everyone to respond. Housing. Okay. We are going to cover all of these topics in the presentation today, and we definitely have one dedicated to relocation and moving and some additional resources that people can plug into as well. So we will keep going. Okay, another question for you all. So as we're looking at the site plan and different housing types and amenities to the housing, we're curious, which outdoor space option would you prefer? A shared outdoor space or a private outdoor space? And here's 2 examples, well, 1 example for each, a shared outdoor space and a private outdoor space. So if you want to go on Menti and vote on this. All right, so out of the gate, private outdoor space is leading, and now it is much closer for both shared outdoor space and private outdoor space. All right, so we'll go on to the next question. Okay, so would you prefer a kitchen with a peninsula or island, or a space for a table? So this will help us determine what residents would prefer in terms of the inside of their units and their kitchen layout and how their space is allocated. So I'm going to go ahead and vote on this one. All right, so far we have 7 votes in on Menti, a couple on the chat. And they're neck and neck right now, kitchen, peninsula, island, and space for a table. Okay, let's see if we can get another one in on Menti. There we go, our 10th one. So pretty close, but kitchen, peninsula, island, 60% space for a table, 40%. So again, this is why you need different housing types to accommodate different preferences. So if we want to go to the next slide. All right, so rank in order of importance to you. So in this one, whatever your first preference is, enter that number and you'll see it on Menti here. So select first, which your first priority is. So the options are a closet or pantry in the kitchen, an entryway closet, a bathroom closet, and a hall closet. So here it will show what the different, and the shifting priorities as people submit their preferences. It's fun to watch. One of the first conversations I had with a Highlander resident was about how her closet space was allocated, which is why this is such an important question, because it really impacts the daily lives of people who are living here. So just like, let's see. All right, so we got 4 so far. I know this question is a preference and you have to select 4, so it might take a little bit longer. Looks like we have close to a 3-way tie. Okay, our 8th person just submitted on Menti. And again, if you're viewing this presentation after the live presentation, you can still vote on these and we'll get your answers up until February 15th. So if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube or on Facebook, please go ahead and submit your answers. We'll get those. Okay, so far, first ranking, first place, first priority is closet, pantry in the kitchen. Next is a bathroom closet, hall closet, and entryway closet. Okay, so now to talk about the neighborhood improvements. So as I mentioned before, there's up to $7.5 million available in this grant for neighborhood improvements. There can be up to 5, right? So we really need to prioritize what those top 5 projects are in the community. And we need community feedback to direct this. So a couple of visuals first, and then we'll go to the voting. So first one you see in the top left here, improvements to make it easier to walk on 30th Street. The next one down, improvements to make it easier to walk on Hughes Street. So currently we have a transportation study going on and we have different recommendations for these streets already. The next one, improvements to make it easier to bike, improvements to Upland Park, improve or fix up neighborhood homes and businesses, wayfinding signage, public art, neighborhood branding, improvements to make it easier to take the bus, and then lastly, free community Wi-Fi. So these are a lot of options. And in our next poll here, we're asking you to prioritize the top 5. So again, this may take a second, but go ahead on Menti and enter your top 5. Okay, so far we've got 3 votes in through Menti. When we get these answers, we will combine it. So we took a similar poll in our 2 in-person meetings last week. So on Friday, we had a resident meeting. On Saturday, we had a community meeting where we asked everyone to prioritize or rank the same improvements. So we'll combine all of our results and see where we're at after this meeting tonight. Okay. So we're up to 7 so far. So far, the top is make it easier to walk on 30th Street. Next is improve or fix up houses. Then make it easier to walk on Q Street, free community Wi-Fi, make it easier to take the bus. So those will be the top 5. Then moving on to the 6th one, improve, fix up businesses. Ooh, and things are shifting. Improvements to Upland Park, make it easier to bike. Wayfinding, signage, public art would be the 9th. Okay, and everyone, thank you for submitting comments on Facebook and in the chat as well. We'll make sure that they get entered into Menti for our analysis as well. Okay, so those are ideas. Those are things that we've heard consistently over the last 2.5 years. But of course, we still want to offer the opportunity for new ideas. So do you have other ideas for neighborhoods and neighborhood improvements? So go ahead on Menti. This is an open-ended question. You can send us your ideas through Menti, through the chat, or through Facebook Live, and you'll see them pop up on screen if anyone submits any additional ideas. All right, so we've got an idea for a community garden, security on the sites. Decorative lights, address the meatpacking smell. Any other ideas? So this is fun to see them pop up on screen as well. More lights around the park, more police. Enforcing signage around parks, asking people, let's see, not to, I'm sure it'll shift to your suit, improved cameras, asking people not to litter, okay? All right, so there's see in the comments here, bike shop, STEM center combo. Okay. All right, those are great ideas. Okay. Thank you everyone for sending in these additional ideas. These are awesome. I want to keep moving to the next slide then. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Brenshaw to just kind of give some high level talking points around this housing plan for Southside Terrace.
Kelly, are you going to do the slides?
Laisha's doing the slides. Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Whitney Ellis from Brenshaw. Yeah, so we've been working on a plan to replace not only the Southside Terrace units that are currently there, but also add both market rate and affordable housing to the Southside Terrace neighborhood. The majority of the units will be put back on site, but in a mixed income fashion with a bunch of different housing types. We're going to have duplexes, townhomes, multifamily buildings that are large, multifamily buildings that are smaller, but they're all going to be configured so that it not only responds to the current need at Southside Terrace, but also just the current need in the surrounding community and in Omaha in general. So We've put together a plan, which you can see here. Plans can change in terms of, you know, different types of buildings on different areas of the site, but this is just overall like what we are thinking in terms of the mix of product and unit type and mix. So next slide. So yeah, so we are approaching this project as like a mixed income approach, which means there's both public housing, affordable housing, and market rate housing all in one area. We believe that this model of mixed income creates everyone, you know, it allows everyone in the community to thrive. So this is the model we're going with. So this slide goes over the off-site phases. So all of the units that we're going to be building will not, 100% of them won't be put all back onto the current Southside Terrace site. We have been working on acquiring additional sites to allow us to spread out the mixes of income in the neighborhood. Each of these sites will be a mixture of a third, or some sort of formula like that. It's going to be a mix of public housing, mixed income housing, public housing, affordable housing, and market rate housing, and all these off-site phases as well. Kelly, who's doing education?
Hey, thanks, Whitney.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. So now I wanted to talk about programs and services. So one of the larger components of a Choice Neighborhoods implementation grant is to support the residents that are in the area that the grant is focused on. So myself and OHA staff have been working really collaboratively with the community to pull together a plan to provide wraparound services for residents that are receiving the benefit of a Choice Neighborhoods grant. So there's three main focus areas. There's education, there's health and wellness, and then there's also a workforce component. So the areas that we wanted to focus on related to education are really that children are supported early on. They also have a path to a strong educational future. So what this looks like is that early childhood education is an area that we have a focus on, where we're working with parents to get connected to quality childcare in the community, also providing parenting resources that may be available to them in the community. We're also on the other side talking with organizations that are local to open up spots and provide preferences for residents in order to get kids into that early childhood education opportunities and programming. We also want to make sure that parents are supported, like I mentioned. Another large area that we're going to be focusing on is the youth at Southside Terrace and then the larger neighborhood. We want them to be connected to quality enrichment programs and have leadership opportunities available to them at home. So our goal here is to provide an opportunity for a youth resident association or a youth leadership group. We're still working on plans for that. If you did complete the needs assessment, you will have noticed that we were asking for families that may be interested in having their children join that group. That ask is always going to be open. So we'll provide some contact information here and a few slides. If you have a kiddo that you're interested in being connected to those opportunities, we would love to speak with you. And then another area that we're going to be focusing on is kids that are in school. So that they're achieving successful grades in math and English, that they're graduating on time, that when they graduate, they have a plan for after graduation, whether it be joining the workforce or continuing education. Next slide, please. The next area of focus is going to be employment. So our goal here is going to have community partners that work collaboratively to connect residents to income and financial security. We know that employment is nuanced and different for everyone, so we want to meet residents where they are. So some of our focus areas are going to be making sure that residents are aware of, and also partnering with organizations to bring training and education to residents in order to be able to enter the workforce in that high earning, high wage category. We also want to assist residents that maybe have barriers to employment, whether it be a language barrier or an education barrier, and get them connected to resources that may be available in the community to overcome that. We also are going to be working with partners that specialize in financial management, so that budgeting, credit, how to get to a position where you're able to save in order to purchase your home. So any of those kind of areas that fall in that bucket, we'll be working with local organizations to bring resources to residents in the neighborhood. And we also want to support local business owners and entrepreneurs. So if you've been following along with us, we've been asking if there was a space available for someone who owned their own business, would they be able to utilize that in the neighborhood? So that's something that we're looking at in a couple different areas. And we also are partnering with organizations that provide support for people that are looking to start their own business or have their own business. And then the last focus area is health and wellness. So the overarching goal here is to provide a connection to great medical care and then a holistic approach to well-being. So on the healthcare side, we want to make sure that residents of the neighborhood are aware of the Medicare availabilities that are to them. They've just recently expanded that healthcare for all for everyone. So we're going to be making sure people know what resources are available and signing them up, getting them connected to staff members that can help navigate medical questions, medical appointments. We also want to provide as much as we can services on site. So we'll be partnering with organizations to have education classes surrounding a variety of different health and well-being focused areas. And then also wanting to make sure that residents know and have access to food in the neighborhood and know where those resources are available. So I liked that community garden comment that someone had left earlier. That's something that's on our radar, is looking at areas at Southside where we could put in gardens. Also looking at possibilities for potential money making related to that. So if you have a food garden, then maybe we'll also look at being able to have a farmer's market to sell that food, and shared opportunities to really create good meals together. Like Kelly had mentioned earlier, we have a case management program that is new to OHA. We've had our longstanding community support program through our Family and Community Services Department. In addition to that, we have added 3 case managers that are on site and ready to work with residents. We're actually just beginning outreach this week to those that completed a needs assessment and said they were interested in case management. Case management is optional and it will always be open. If you engage and leave and want to come back, we will always want to work with you. We are located on site at 5609 South 30th Street. So if you're ever interested in engaging in case management or learning more, you can reach out to our case management team there or get in contact with someone at OHA to get you connected. And then relocation and moving. So this is a big component of a neighborhood transformation. We have to vacate the units in order to rebuild them. We know that this is a challenge and can seem very overwhelming for residents. And we want to let you know that the nice thing about relocation is that there are things in place through the grant that support residents through this process. So relocation will likely occur in different phases. We're not looking to have a large displacement of everyone all at once. We will work to identify certain areas and families that are ready to relocate and do that in smaller phases. Residents will receive at least a 90-day notice prior to having to vacate their unit. If relocation occurs through Choice Neighborhoods implementation grant, There are funds available built into that grant to provide support through relocation. So things like moving costs, having movers come and even pack your unit is something that's available cost in that. Application fees, there's assistance with funds for transportation if you would need assistance with transportation to look at apartments, covering apartment deposits and pet deposits, things like that are things that are eligible funds through the Choice Neighborhoods grant. And then lastly, to be eligible for relocation and relocation benefits, residents must be in good standing with the housing authority. So that's one of the big reasons why we're so excited to have case management in place now, is we can get in front of that. So if you remember that timeline that we looked at before, we're still a ways out from looking at relocation. So our team is really going to be focusing our conversations on ways that residents feel supported to get connected to hardship assistance if they're behind in rent, getting everyone who's living with them on their lease so they all can benefit from relocation support, and all of those things combined in order to make sure that you're within that good standing category. There is it looks like it's maybe getting cut off from my perspective a little bit, but there is a frequently asked questions document that we have prepared. I can, once I'm done talking, I'll go ahead and slide that in the chat as well, a link to that. It answers a lot of those. If this happens, then what can I expect? And like I said, we are here to provide assistance. One group on this call that I wanted to introduce is Shannon and Mike. They're with CVR Associates. They are our company that we have contracted with for the relocation project that we're doing up north at Spencer Homes. So they have a staff member, whose name is Maria, who is full-time working with residents to get them through the relocation process. So if you're familiar with Spencer Homes, that is facing demolition this year. We've been working for the last 2.5 years to support residents through relocation. So over half of them have moved out and on to another housing option while they're waiting for Spencer to be demoed and then rebuilt. So it's nice that Choice also affords someone that can really walk alongside residents through that process, so they know what to expect, how to kind of start working with OHA as well as other housing providers in order to get them to a place where they feel like they have either a permanent home or a temporary home while they're waiting to move back to the rebuilt area. Next slide, please.
Hey, and Lauren, I'll put the phone number in the chat.
Okay, it looks like it didn't make it on this slide here. So thank you, Shannon. And then just to mention, I know that we had quite a few people that said that they had questions about relocation. At the end of this presentation, we're going to open up for questions. So I just wanted to remind you that if you have anything specific that you wanted to go over, we will give space for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Alyssa.
Thank you, Lauren. Hello, everybody. I'm Alyssa Solachik, and I'm a city planner for the Omaha Planning Department. And what I focus on largely is construction-related work that's attached to this project and various other projects that we do through the city of Omaha as well. And I'm going to talk specifically tonight about the Section 3 program, which is a program created by HUD on projects or areas that they have provided grant funding toward. And in general, the Section 3 program was designed to provide employment, job training, and contracting opportunities for low and very low income residents and businesses. So there are essentially two sides of Section 3. There's the resident or worker side of Section 3, which applies to individuals. And there's also a business component that applies to contractors. And generally those contractors are smaller contractors or low income contractors. And a Section 3 worker can qualify based on income level, if they're employed by a Section 3 business, or if they are a participant in a youth build program. And there are also additional ways that you might qualify based on your residency within a specific targeted neighborhood or area, or if you are a resident of public or Section 8 assisted housing. And then a Section 3 business is eligible if 51% or more of the business owners are considered low income. And as we're talking about low income, there's a number that's evaluated by HUD on an annual basis. And so the current level or current income that we're using right now at this time is $49,200. So if your individual income, annual income, is under $49,200, you would qualify as a Section 3 worker, or if you were the owner of a business and you had low income, your business could qualify as a Section 3 business. So that's the first way. The second way is if low or low income people perform at least 75% of business operations or construction. And then the third and final way is if 51% or more of the business is owned by people in public housing or Section 8 assisted housing. So that's some general information about the Section 3 program. When Lauren was speaking about case management earlier, Section 3 applications are available to be completed with case managers. I can also assist you with completing the application. And businesses, those applications are completed online, but you can also request technical assistance from me with that as well. My contact information is listed on the bottom of the slide, and then there's also additional information that can be available on City Planning Department's Facebook page, and there also is a Section 3 page on our website as well, and I can drop the link to that in the chat. And so I believe that is the conclusion of my portion, so we can switch to the next.
Okay, it looks like we've gotten to the Q&A portion of our event. Unless anyone else would like to be the MC of this, I have a question actually that I received that I can would be happy to have answered. If anyone's got any questions right now about anything that we just went over, if you could put it in the chat. The Zoom chat, the Facebook chat, feel free to put it in Mentimeter. Laisha, if you could put the Mentimeter information back up again, that would be great. I know, just to start it off, one question that I've received was, excuse me, has the mixture of commercial / residential been dropped from Southside Terrace? So I'm thinking this might be a question because some of our previous events, we've shown kind of in greater detail what the Southside Terrace site might look like, including some mixed use. So I think Whitney, maybe could you speak a little bit to how the uses of the buildings on Southside Terrace might look? Maybe we could go back to that slide too.
Sure. Do you have any? Okay, so there are different uses. You know, the idea of having different product types on the site is to accommodate the different types of families and the different family needs in the neighborhood. So currently at Southside Terrace, they're all the same unit type. They're like a barrack style brick. I guess you would call it like a single family unit, or like it's more like it's a barrack style unit. They don't really do that anymore because it's not the best. It's not the best use for a variety of different reasons. But so what we've modeled here is a variety of types of housing, duplex, townhomes, small multifamily buildings. So, you know, almost like a walk-up sort of building, and then like a larger multifamily building, and that would have like an elevator in it. You would see that probably like 60 units, 60 to 100 and some units, that type of building. We envision the duplexes and townhomes to accommodate the larger family sizes. So, families that have 3, 4, 5, 6 plus family members living in there. And then the smaller units, the 1 and 2 bedrooms, they'll be spread out through the site, but the majority of them will be in the multifamily apartment buildings, both small and the larger ones. The images you see here on this slide, this is just an idea. This is not what Southside Terrace is going to look like. It's just to give you an idea of the different types of units there are. We have not picked the skin to the buildings. That is something that will be explored when we get the grant. But this is just to give you an idea of what we were thinking in terms of the unit types, not the actual looks. Did that answer your question?
Thanks, Winnie. I just want to mention too that one thing you don't really see when looking at this mock-up is in relation to commercial space. So there's going to be opportunities for businesses to come in to have a coffee shop on your street in your neighborhood, or a market or something like that. And another thing that we're looking at doing is making sure that buildings have community spaces. There's going to be more playgrounds on site. There's going to be opportunities for residents to host their own meetings. We're going to have a larger community area. So all of those things are being taken into consideration as we're looking at redesign of the overall area. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. That's a very good point. Thank you.
I'll add for those who aren't able to see the chat as well. Joni from OHA also put in the chat, no. So the options to have commercial use in some of the buildings at Southside Terrace after redevelopment has not changed. So it is still likely that some of the buildings will have commercial space. I think an issue is at the bottom of this slide got cut off. So those pink buildings are categorized as multifamily apartments with amenities or commercial uses. So having apartments on the top and amenities like a commercial cafe or something like that at the bottom. That is still an option. Lauren, are you able to mute that? I don't have co-hosting abilities right now. Thank you. Oh.
All right, I think I got it. I kept muting and then unmuting. So I think I have that taken care of now. Sorry about that, everyone.
Thanks, Lauren. Are there any other questions? This would be a good time. I think you can unmute yourself if someone is on a phone and can only can't type but wanted to ask a question verbally through the chat, or just through the audio. If we get time for that. Also, I don't know if there's any questions on the Facebook, but this would be a great time to ask those.
I just, wanted to add what Whitney, Lauren, and Johnny were mentioning. In addition to also the diverse needs within this community in terms of family sizes, there's also a cultural aspect of this community. And we need to also make sure that we're serving those needs. So along with the design, their interior spaces will change to, to better serve those communities that perhaps have different needs in terms of culture. Also in terms of, when we're talking also culture, is there not necessarily their costumes, but also the generational families where like grandma might live with them. Also, making sure that we are serving those that have some accessibility issues. So the units needs to be well accessible. So all of those things are taken into consideration. And of course, the plan that we have created has been based on the feedback that we have received from this community. So it was not created in the vacuum. It was with all the input that we received from many people like you participating in the many meetings that we had in the last couple of years.
Great. Well, since I was, hi everyone, I'm Joni with OHA. Since I was not able to join at the very beginning of our call due to a prior commitment, I was able to join partway through, but I'll wrap us up today and just thank everyone who was able to join the our virtual meeting and ask questions and participate. We really appreciate everyone's participation and the great questions and just frankly, the great feedback that we've received. We are hopeful that we are going to be able to submit this application, and then even more hopeful that if we're able to submit the application, that HUD looks favorably upon that and awards it, because there's a great opportunity here for this community to realize the transformation plan that we have all worked very hard to put into place. So all of your feedback helps to guide that effort, and we're really grateful for your time and effort. If there are any other further questions, you can certainly reach out on the Facebook feed, as well as really any of us, if you've got contact information for any of the city folks or OHA or Canopy South or any of the other members that have presented here today, any one of us would be happy to get the answer to you if there are questions after this meeting. One last call for any questions, otherwise we'll wrap it up. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. We really appreciate your time and your feedback, and we'll talk with everyone again in the near future. Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you.